and much more. Tonight we will be hearing from candidates running for district attorney, county controller, county treasurer, and county council at large. Now, regarding the district attorney race, we invited Stephen Zappala to attend, but he declined to participate. We will be hearing from his opponent, Matt Dugan. I want to thank all of you who donated in support of this event, and thanks also to our co-sponsoring organizations. We're co-sponsored by many grassroots and Democratic committees, and I am now going to have a brief public service announcement from one of our co-sponsoring organizations. I'd like to introduce Paul Heckman from the McCandless Democratic Committee.
Oh, don't clap yet. Don't clap yet, because I have a request. Please keep your signs off of our highways. We have an ordinance in McCandless and Franklin Park that signs are not allowed on public right-of-ways in McCandless, only private property. So we have a lot of, not as many as usual, but we're starting to see the pop-ups of illegal signs. I have to take them down when they tell me they're there and they can't get a hold of your campaigns to come out and do that. So we're requesting, it's simple. If you want to plant a sign, ask the owner of the property if you can put the sign there. If you can't ask someone if you can put a sign there, don't put it there. It's very straightforward. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. I'm pleased to say that tonight our moderator is Sean Malloy. He is the Vice President of Political Programs at LGBTQ Victory Fund. He's a longtime state, local, and national organizer. He was appointed by Governor Tom Wolf to serve on the Pennsylvania Commission on LGBTQ Affairs. He currently serves as a Democratic National Committee member from Pennsylvania, the first LGBTQ person to do so from the Commonwealth.
Nice.
As our moderator tonight, Sean will be asking each candidate a few questions, and they will have 90 seconds to respond. Candidates, Tammy is our timekeeper, and she has cards to hold up to remind you of your remaining time. Each candidate will also have time to make a brief opening statement. Tonight, we have door prizes.
Nice.
Please keep your door prize tickets handy. We will pick winners at the end of each segment of the forum as candidates switch seats. You must be present to win. A little bit of forum etiquette. Please silence your cell phones. And please refrain from conversation during the forum. If you feel you need to converse, there's an entire beautiful room straight through there that is decorated as an ocean paradise. So I invite you to go back there to carry on your conversation. And so now, folks, our moderator, Sean Malloy.
Thank you so much, everyone. Excuse me, I'm going to take a sip of water here. Tonight is a really exciting time. These are some races that don't always get the spotlight, but they have immense power over our lives. And so I'm so excited to be here to moderate. I want to thank Progress PA and the rest of the organizations for having me and for putting this amazing event together. Having been a candidate, right, I'm sure candidates can appreciate this is really a nice affair. And so thank you for putting it together. It's also being streamed and taped so other people can see that. And I think that's also really important as well. And so very excited to be here. As mentioned, we're going to be starting off with a race where we invited both candidates, but only one chose to come. And so, the district attorney is a very important role in Allegheny County. And when we see the news, when we see what police are doing to combat crime, and when we see the judicial process, these things flow together. And the district attorney is someone who helps make sure that that process is fair there's a sense of equal treatment, and that we have a justice system that we can respect and appreciate. And so I'm very excited to welcome up our guest, Matt Dugan. I kind of feel like this is like kind of almost anyone on TikTok or Instagram, it kind of feels like a podcast setup, like we're here. But Matt, obviously thank you for coming tonight. That is the first step, I think, of being a great public servant. The the DA's office has been getting a lot of scrutiny. It's been getting a lot of attention, in the last 5 to 6 years. Some people have been scrutinizing it much longer than that. But who we actually have helping execute the policy of the district attorney is really important. 20 people left the DA's office last year, and there's still a bunch of positions open. So, can you tell us, first a minute to introduce yourself, and then I'd love to start asking you about some staffing and some policy at the DA's office.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you all for hosting this event. This is fantastic. There have been so many county executive forums. This is fantastic. We get to do one. So my name is Matt Dugan. I am a candidate for Allegheny County District Attorney. I'm currently serving as the Chief Public Defender of Allegheny County. I've been with that office for a little over 16 years. I started my legal career there. And I've had really almost every position in the office, from little baby lawyer to trial attorney, where I tried a bunch of juries and non-juries. Held a lot of different management positions as well. But for the past 5 years, I've stepped out of the courtroom, focusing more on macro reform work. So I think I have an interesting or a unique insight into our justice system, and that's why, like you said, the district attorney gets to set policy. They get to, really set the tone for how our criminal justice system works, and that's why I'm running.
Well, excellent. And so, you are Allegheny County's Chief Public Defender. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure. So, we have an office of about 100 attorneys. We've got 65 more staff, including investigators, social workers, legal support staff. And, it's our job and it's our mission to provide the best and most zealous representation for the most marginalized folks in our community.
Yeah, and so you've been overseeing staff, and so I mentioned, there's 20 people who left the DA's office last year. There's a lot of open positions. The salary, I don't think is the greatest. But what will you do, and what experience will you bring to, retain and then also, to first hire and then retain qualified people?
Yeah, so, the district attorney's office and the public defender's office, our assistant ADAs and assistant PDs are all in the same union. So you're right, for a long time the salaries were way below market value. Our starting salary was $45,000. Now the good news is we did reach an agreement with the county, so starting salaries have gone up. But that being said, we existed, thank you Bethany, we existed in a reality that was we needed to staff our office, right? So I was faced with the same difficulties that the district attorney's office was, and I knew that we couldn't operate an office with attorney vacancies. It's just you just can't do it. So we really had to think creatively about how we can go out and get lawyers. So, for years and years, we relied on folks just applying to our office. We would interview folks on a one-off basis, and we would just bring people in one at a time. We knew, I knew that wasn't sustainable. You can't run an office that way. You can't provide the best support for that. So what we did is we invested in a director of recruiting. So we went out and we started recruiting attorneys from all over the country to come. And we now hire as a class. So our last class, we brought in 14 attorneys. And what we really wanted was, we talked about that mission statement about, providing the best absolute defense, and most zealous defense to our marginalized folks. We made that a cornerstone of every decision we made in the public defender's office. So, we had total fidelity to that model, and that bled into our hiring decisions. In addition to that, we hired a director of training, so we really provided a bunch of support and training, and it's our management style that we want to provide training and resources and support to our folks. So as the district attorney's office was bleeding attorneys, we actually had no vacancies at that time. And it's because you cannot operate in that type of environment. You just can't do it.
Excellent. And so, there's been some ads, right, talking about alternative courts. We've got the county's drug court. Can you talk a little bit about where you think that is? And then also, alternatives to incarceration, that you'd be looking at if you were to serve?
Yeah, so we've heard a lot about these treatment courts, and Zappala talks about how those are diversion courts, and they're not. And he touts those as that he's a trailblazer and that he should be looked at as a reformer. The truth is that drug court was created in 1998, mental health court in 2001. The most recent treatment court we have is from 2009. So we're talking 14 years without any real innovation or moving the ball forward. More to the point, these are not diversion programs. These are treatment courts. Diversion means moving folks out of the criminal justice system without, requiring the lifelong burden, the lifelong scar of a criminal record. In these treatment programs, they work. We know when we connect folks to resources. We know if folks are struggling with mental health, if we can connect them with services and medication regimen. If we know folks are struggling with instability or substance abuse, if we attach services, we know that folks are less likely to come back in. But our treatment courts, as they're set up now, you only become eligible for entry into those programs after you've demonstrated the absolute need. And how do you demonstrate that need? By failing multiple times within the criminal justice system. So folks come in with 5, 6, 7 criminal convictions. That's way, way too late. The train is too far down the track at that point. So what we need to do is we need to think about identifying low-level nonviolent folks who are appropriate for treatment, moving that treatment and moving those resources upstream so we can get folks when they first enter the criminal justice system. So we can invest in prevention, right? We want to think about how can we make sure that folks are not coming back time and time again.
Excellent. You've also, kind of talked about how the DA's office needs more accountability and how we need to make sure that, there's accountability for all who are serving justice. You've talked about conviction and integrity to, review those kind of convictions. How would that work, and how would you implement that?
Yeah, so we've talked about several new initiatives that we want to bring to the district attorney's office. One, chief among them, is a conviction integrity unit, right? We want to go back and make sure that convictions over the past 24, plus years are legitimate, that they're good, that they, because without conviction integrity, it brings doubt into the criminal justice system, and you can't have that. You can't have doubt. You can't wonder if the system is fair, because then it's not working. For years we had the head of homicide at the district attorney's office, who then went on to become a sitting judge, who then went on to resign after making very, very racist and inappropriate comments. That person oversaw the conviction of hundreds of people without one single review from the current district attorney's office. So that's something we absolutely need to look at. We also need to take a look into special investigations, which would include public official fraud, public official abuse, police accountability. But it all starts at the top, right? It all starts with holding yourself accountable. So I've been out for months now, and I say the district attorney's office needs to hold, the public needs to have accessibility, there needs to be transparency, and there needs to be integrity. And that can't happen until there's open lines, open dialogue, open communication, and that folks can hold us accountable. So we've talked about, how we're going to create a community advisory board made up of folks from across the county who will come and sit. We will run new policies, new procedures through these folks so we know, so we can get instant feedback. Once implemented, we want to make sure that those policies and procedures are having their intended impact. And we want to be transparent. We want to have public-facing dashboards, and we want to be able to show folks, like, this is what we're charging, this is who we're charging, gender, race, age, here's outcome. So we want people to have more faith in the criminal justice system, and that starts with accountability at the top.
Absolutely. And then are you, as the district attorney, able to implement these, or do you need to work with other parties in the county?
So that idea of accountability and integrity and information sharing, that's day one. That's solely the responsibility of the district attorney. And that needs to be a forward-facing position. I mean, the district attorney should be in the community. And that really, I think, impacts violent crime as well, right? The district attorney's office needs to repair its relationship with the communities most impacted by gun violence and most affected by the criminal justice system. You know, half of our homicides go uncharged. And I don't say unsolved, because there are folks in the neighborhood and witnesses, but there's just a lack of trust. There's a lack of communication between police and neighborhoods, lack of communication between neighborhoods and district attorney's office. So the district attorney's office has a lot of work to do, to gain credibility, to gain trust. And, you know, until we have that, you know, public safety, I think, is at risk. That's a violence prevention program, by being present, accountable, and building trust in communities. It means showing up.
Absolutely, indeed. So, you know, but you mentioned criminal justice reform. You know, if you watch Fox News, right, you know, reform is seen as anti-police in a large degree, or certainly framed that way. You know, how will you work with our police to help achieve this reform?
Yeah, so reform is not anti-police at all. Certainly not with my campaign. In fact, you know, there are pilot programs going on across the county right now, without the input, without the assistance, without the, you know, megaphone of the district attorney's office, where we're trying to divert people pre-arrest. Like, police officers want more resources. They want more options than just the arrest, prosecute, punish model. You know, they see folks struggling, and they know the options are not to lock folks up for, you know, decades. They know they're going to be back out, but they know that, you know, a connection to resource or connection to support, that's really what we're looking for. So, no, listen, we're not going to defund the police. We want to fund the police, right? We want to give them options. We want to give them power. We want to make sure that they're working with violence prevention groups in the community, such that we can build relationships there to, again, get ahead of and prevent violent crime. So no, this is, you know, reform does not, you know, mean, you know, reform is synonymous with safety. I really do think if we can, you know, get better treatment, better options for our low-level folks, we can start thinking about, number one, competently prosecuting violent crime, right? When we charge homicide, we want to make sure that we have the relationships with police and witnesses such that we can get convictions. But we also want to have, you know, communication with police officers and other stakeholders such that we can start thinking about preventing violent crime as well.
Amazing. And, you know, last year, the current district attorney refused to consider any plea deals with an attorney who criticized them. Is that something that we, you know, if you serve, would that continue, or would that be something that you'd stop?
Well, we have a more recent example than that. You know, the day after the Allegheny County Democratic Committee endorsement, one of his deputy district attorneys gathered all the trial attorneys and said, hey, this is election season. Our boss just lost the Democratic endorsement. We can't make deals on things. It ended with a prosecutor going to trial with no evidence and telling the judge he had no discretion because his boss lost the Democratic endorsement. And the distraction that was made after that was he was going to shut down Kennywood. That was the response. So, yeah, you know, you can't weaponize the criminal justice system. Especially because any change, any policy, always impacts marginalized folks the most, right? It always hits public defender clients the hardest. So I think that's why, go back to that unique insight that I have from representing folks for all these years, that you know the impact of the criminal justice system. And when we talk about what we want to bring to the district attorney's office, it is a new mission statement. And maybe it's not new because maybe they don't have one, I'm not sure. But it is one that you know, prosecutors and the folks that work in that office need to understand the humanity of all folks that appear before the criminal justice system. That includes witnesses, that includes victims, but it also includes the defendants.
And I'm going to take moderator's privilege to ask you a question. You know, there's a new ad I saw from your opponent, right? And talks about how pro-choice he is, how pro-LGBT he is, how pro-reform he is. You know, what would you say in response to that?
Well, number one, I'd say this. He's seeing the same polling that I'm seeing, right? Which is Democratic voters and voters at large want to see reform. They favor reform-minded district attorney candidates over traditional candidates. We're lucky in this race in that we have 2.5 decades of sample size to go back and look at. So if we, point to me, again, in the last 14 years, evidence of reform, evidence of being an outspoken ally for, LGBTQ, for, black and brown folks, where, show me an example of where he recognizes the disparity, the racial disparity in our criminal justice system, besides denying it. Show me an example of where he's talked about the prevention of crime and not just the prosecution of it. Right? In 2019, he said that, yes, I recognize poverty is a driver into the criminal justice system, but I'm on the back end of government. There's nothing I can do about it. That's not progressive. That's old school. And I think it's dead wrong. I think the district attorney has a legal and moral duty to think about how we can put folks in a better place and make sure they don't come back, and how we can protect victims of violent crime. Show me what they've done to help victims. So no, I think he's seen the polls. I think he knows that people are hungry for reform and he's trying to paint himself as such. If he wanted, if he wanted honest debate, or if he wanted to tout his reform, he would be here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. You got a couple extra questions because, there's no one else here. Anything to close us out?
This has been a really rewarding process, and we have a lot of momentum. We're picking up a lot of great endorsements, and this has been great. And there's a lot of energy surrounding this. I thank you all for coming out here tonight. I thank you for engaging. They call these off-year elections. I couldn't disagree more. These are the elections that impact our lives the most. So thank you very much, and enjoy the next round of debate.
Thank you.
I'm in the front row, so you're going to throw furniture or something.
So the next office that we're going to look at is County Controller. And I have an announcement to make before we go on with doing our first door prize drawing. Candidate Corey O'Connor intended to be here tonight, but is not able to join us because his wife is giving birth. We are not allowing substitutes to participate in the question and answer portion in place of the candidates. However, because Corey O'Connor informed us from the very start the chance that he would need to be absent tonight, and because of the extraordinary and joyous nature of what is happening in his family, we are allowing a spokesperson, Valerie Roberts, to give the 1-minute opening speech on Corey O'Connor's behalf. And we will also have Darwin come up and partake in the question and answer portion. But before we do that, we are going to have our first door prize drawing, which is an Outback Steakhouse gift card. Okay.
I'm not sure.
The number is 299-252.
Why I don't hear anything. It's weird. Yeah, I know. I don't know why.
Do we have any winners?
Give me a water.
299-252. Ending in 252. Anyone?
It must be okay if people are
We'll
watching.
put that with that, and if we don't find the winner, we'll do another round later. So I think we're ready now to have Valerie Roberts and Darwin come up.
Go ahead.
Thank you all very much. I am just honored that County Controller Corey O'Connor asked me to represent him. 1 minute. Where's that card? 1 minute. Simply because we are friends. We've known each other for quite a long time. His father had really helped me on city council to become the first woman to chair the Committee on Budget and Finance. People do not know that, but I was the first woman, and I couldn't understand why, but that is the character of his dad. Corey stayed basically out of the limelight. Corey was just Corey. And I was so happy in 2011 when he ran for city council, because I understand how he was raised as a public servant. All he saw was public service, constituency, and being honest and kind. This is what he's bringing to the county controller's office, is transparency in government, service to regular people, even though the office is massive in what its responsibilities are. This is the character that is there now. This is the character that I am supporting to continue. Corey has recently, we heard he's going to be daddy number 2 with a boy. And he is, again, we just wish him and his wife very well. But he was endorsed by SEIU Healthcare. That is the progressive candidate that Corey is. And I would hope that you would support him. And that is why I'm coming out of retirement temporarily to help him win this race. Thank you. I'm going to stay up here. I got dressed up. What am I, put my face on.
Well, I was going to say, Darwin, please go ahead and give your remark.
Well, it's great to have you here, and it's great to be here. Thank you to everybody for hosting this forum. My name is Darwin Larva. I've been the auditor of O'Hara Township for over 5 years now. I'm in my 6th year, and I'm running for Allegheny County Controller. So I think this is one of those technical offices where it might be helpful to give an overview of the office to start. So it's audits, and it's also contract enforcement. And the way I like to frame it is looking at the resources that are coming into the county and making sure that corporations and wealthy nonprofits are paying what they owe, because when they pay less, we have to pay more. And then also making sure that those resources get to where they need to go, making sure that they're not getting stranded with wealthy consultants or contracts that aren't being enforced, but are actually providing services that we pay for as taxpayers. So I look forward to talking a lot about policy today and my technical background. I have a degree in computer science from Yale University, and I hope to bring that technical background to the County Controller's office, because that's something that we don't necessarily see in local government, is that technical background where you can really get into the spreadsheets, get into the data, and understand where things can be more efficient and where we can save money. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you both. Valerie, you can stay if you'd like, but you can also leave if you'd like. But we're going to have the questions for Darwin here. It'll be another mini interview. So, if you are a controller, what would you do? What are your top 3 things that you'd be doing?
Oh, that's an excellent question. So a lot of it would actually be a continuation of the work that I've done as the auditor of O'Hara Township. So last year, one of my most popular audits was of UPMC parking lots, where I found that because the county wasn't complying with county laws, we weren't reviewing all of the purely public charity parcels every 3 years as required by law. So we were missing out on taxing over $32 million in UPMC parking lots alone. And this is just a very small scope of an audit that I would like to expand countywide to all the big nonprofits, to all corporations, to make sure that they're paying what they owe. Because like I said in the opening statement, when corporations pay less, we have to make up the difference as taxpayers and as ratepayers. The second thing I'd like to address is the Allegheny County Jail. We have a county jail with a death rate that is twice the per capita average. And a huge part of that is because the Controller's Office isn't enforcing contracts, particularly the healthcare contract, where AHN is not sending the required levels of staffing, and the food service contract, where Summit Food Services isn't sending the staff to run the food service program. So as a result, correctional officers who are already overburdened have to step in. And that's also increasing our forced overtime costs, which skyrocketed to $9.7 million last year, a $1.5 million increase over 3 years. So this is a lot of numbers, it's very technical work, But contract enforcement audits, and with only a couple seconds left, I want to mention clean air. So auditing the health department's air quality enforcement program and making sure that we're finding polluters appropriately and making sure that that money gets back to impacted communities and that it's not a slush fund for the county executive. Thank you.
You know, we hear a lot about assessments in Allegheny County. There's always a thought or a theory around it. But what role does the controller play in property tax assessments?
That's an excellent question, because while the controller can't set the policy, a lot of the analysis that I've been doing has shown just how inequitable it is. We know it's inequitable when new home buyers get hit with higher tax bills. So it discourages people to come to Pittsburgh and Allegheny County because they, when you're buying a house, you're putting everything on the line, right? You're pinching all the pennies in order to afford a house and make sure that you can meet mortgage payments and fix sewer lines or afford sewer line repairs or anything else that needs to happen. And when you have a higher tax bill because of that, that's going to discourage you from buying a house. That's going to keep you as a renter. That's going to keep people down. So one, the property assessment system we know is very unfair to new home buyers. And we also know that it's unfair to occupants of their homes because, as I talked about before, corporations are able to evade taxes on a lot of their properties. But you and I, we pay full price outside of that $18,000 exemption, the homeowner's exemption. So I would like to see that exemption increased so that we provide relief for people who are living in their homes. And I would like to see regular reassessments happen. And I think from the controller's office, you can analyze a lot of the data and demonstrate where things are inequitable. Because we know that the lack of reassessment is disproportionately hurting black areas. It's disproportionately hurting poor areas. It's disproportionately hurting people who have been in their homes for a long time in regions that are seeing population loss. So, from an equity standpoint, from a data standpoint, from an oversight standpoint, there's so much that the county controller can do to make sure that as we go into any sort of property reassessment, it's fair and equitable for everybody.
Excellent. And once again, the importance of these offices. The controller's office can perform an audit on any of the other any agency getting county funds, correct? Do you think these kind of audits should happen more often, right? Can they lead to change, right? How do you see your role as controller in it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think when you look at where funds are going, it's important to realize that the statutory authority of the controller's office is limited when it comes to certain authorities. So sports and exhibition authority, what is now Pittsburgh Regional Transit, which many of us know as the Port Authority. Some of that statutory authority is limited in terms of being able to demand information, but we also have access to the tools that you and I have, such as right to know law requests and the ability to look at public records and examine them. I've done a lot of that work as the township auditor for O'Hara Township, looking at how county government is impacting O'Hara residents when it comes to jail contracts or jail operations. And so I would like to see a lot more of this in general happening in the office. But unfortunately right now, the way the office is structured, you have folks on the political side who are making near or greater than six-figure salaries who aren't necessarily doing that direct auditing work. But on the auditing side, clerks and people who are doing the actual work that needs to happen aren't making enough to pay student loans or start a family. So they're leaving to the private sector. So I would like to see a change in how salaries are provided so that we can attract and retain auditors, because especially right now, more auditors, because right now we're seeing a lot of folks leave to the private sector, and there's this huge demand in the private sector now for more auditors. And we're never going to be able to compete with Deloitte or Ernst & Young, but we can make it a little bit more competitive so that folks who want to dedicate their auditing skills to public service are able to afford to pay student loans, start a family, and have the basic life that we all deserve.
The controller is a member of a lot of different boards, that do a lot of different things. Retirement, the jail oversight board. As a member of those boards, you could potentially affect change. If so, what were the changes you'd be advocating for?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of different boards. So let me start with the Jail Oversight Board. I've been going to Jail Oversight Board meetings for many years now. And as I mentioned, the death rate in the jail is twice the per capita average. And a lot of that can happen on the Jail Oversight Board if we had a majority willing to make necessary statutory changes. But I don't see that happening with the current executive. But what you can do is what I talked about with contract enforcement. Because when we look at this super high death rate, the main contributor is going to be a lack of health care and a lack of nutrition. So that's going to be the healthcare contract and the nutrition contract. So it comes back to contract enforcement, and that's not necessarily the most exciting or interesting issue to be digging through contracts. But as an auditor, that's the type of stuff that I like to do, and that has a real impact, because if we can force AHN to send the right amount of nurses, the right amount of psych doctors, if we can force the food service provider to provide food at the quality that is required, we can actually help make conditions better, and we can reduce some of the deaths and make people healthier in the jail, because it shouldn't be a death sentence. The jail is for largely pretrial incarceration, so we need to make sure that we are upholding folks' constitutional rights. When it comes to other boards, like the retirement board, I really want to look at the funded status of our current pensions, because it's well below 80%, which is the generally accepted standard for what you would want your pension to be funded at. And we kept increasing the contribution rate since 2017, but we kept putting Band-Aids on this instead of actually looking at how we need to address the pensions as a whole in order to make sure that we're able to pay them out for county workers. And that is going to have impacts on attracting county employees as well.
Final question here. There's been a lot reported on Alcosan, but they just started a $2 billion project to update our much-needed update for our sewer and water systems. As controller, what kind of oversight do you have in that project, and would you audit that project?
So, again, as a separate authority, there's limited direct authority to force them to give you documents, but we definitely need to scrutinize those projects and definitely need to scrutinize those contracts. This is something where my opponent was on the Alcosan board for many years, and during that time, he took tens of thousands of dollars from Alcosan contractors and then voted on their contracts and voted to increase the amount of money they received. And as a result of all the new Alcosan spending, we all have to pay 7% more every year through 2026. So this is where campaign kickbacks and political contributions and corporate PAC money can really have a negative impact on our finances and increase the amount of money that we have to pay for services such as our sewer bill. So definitely we need to be scrutinizing those contracts, and the way we can do that without going to the state level is by using right-to-know law requests and examining what's happening using public information. But definitely I would want to work with the Attorney General and the Auditor General to make sure that that money is going to the best contractors possible, that there aren't shitty business deals, because there has been so much reporting about why politicians want to be on the Alcosan board and the amount of money that they get back in campaign funding. And I think that 7% increase in our sewer bill could be lower if we had candidates who rejected corporate PAC money. That's why I'm the only candidate in this race who doesn't take any money from corporations or corporate PACs or county contractors, because that's money that you all end up paying for. When a county contractor has to include contributions in the cost of their doing business, that increases the amount of money they have to charge for those contracts, and ultimately that falls on us, the ratepayers and the taxpayers. So that's why I think it's really important to talk about specifically corporate PAC money, especially in the controller's race where you're examining contracts and examining finances.
Well, excellent. Those are all the questions that we have. Would you like to close out with some very, very short closing remarks?
Yeah, absolutely. I have thousands of words of policy and technical details and spreadsheets at darwinforcontroller.com. If you ever have questions about audits or contract enforcement, just let me know and we can talk. Thank you so much, Sean, for moderating this, and thank you, Valerie, for being here. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Darwin. Thank you, Valerie. And congratulations to Corey and his family. Thank you so much for both being here.
Thank you. Thank you all.
And we're going to get ready for another door prize here, I think. So get your tickets out and get excited.
Okay, we're going to redraw for our Outback gift card. We have 299224. And we also have a Penzies gift basket donated by Grassroots Pittsburgh and Progress PA. Here we go. We cook all kinds of good stuff. Okay, 299-264. What a disappointed people. Anybody have 264? All right, I'm going to go again. 299-207.
Oh, that's me, I think. Yeah.
It's kind of inside, but it has to stop.
All right, we're going to be moving along. You know, the moderator really likes Penzies spices. That's all I'm saying. No, we're getting ready to go to our county treasurer office. The treasurer's office is responsible for collecting your taxes and fees and distributing those through the county government and services. It's also responsible for investing those funds. The treasurer's office also issues dog and hunting licenses, as well as licenses for bingo. Who likes bingo? Yeah. And small games of chance. You know, festival, carnival season is coming up, so get excited. And so I'm so excited to bring up both of our candidates. We have Erica. Come on down. And we have Anthony. Councilman Anthony. Oh, there you are. All right, we finally have two candidates here. Get excited, get excited. This is going to be a rumble, I think, right? Rumble over treasurer. Would love for you both to start off by giving us a little bit of an introduction about yourself, why you're running. We'll start off with Erica.
Good evening. Thanks for having us here today. As was mentioned previously, it's a big thing to put on. I'm Erica Roque-Bruslars. I'm running to be your next county treasurer. My platform is one of transparency, modernization, collaboration, and leadership. I'm uniquely qualified with a 15-year career as a pension actuary at a large consulting company and with a math degree from Carnegie Mellon. I have a project management experience that'll I'll bring to the 60-person office to manage it while improving processes and services. One of the key responsibilities of the county treasurer is to serve on our county's pension board. I have the expertise to bring much needed focus to this underfunded pension plan. I've been doing political activism work for years. I serve as the Democratic Committee Ward Chair on the North Side, and I'm ready to get in the fight for you, the people of Allegheny County. I'm the leader who earned the Democratic Committee endorsement in a landslide vote, and I'm excited to answer your questions tonight.
Thank you so much. Anthony?
Thank you, Sean. And, how about, let's give it up for Progress PA. I've been to many functions across the county, and this is probably one of the most well-attended, most organized, and most well-run. So thank you for what you do. So I'm going to skip, most people think I'm a lifelong politician at this point, but I'm not. I came from the private sector. But I want to start with where I decided to get involved with public service. In 2009, like many of the people in this room, I ran for a local Democratic committee seat. In 2013, I ran for Democratic Ward Chair. I served as a Democratic Ward Chairman for the 19th Ward. It's the second largest ward in the city of Pittsburgh. We have 76 committee people. I reformed the Democratic Committee. I served 7 years on Pittsburgh City Council. I oversee a $650 million budget. I love what I do there. I take on the hard issues, homelessness, food insecurity. I take those on. I dive right into them. I also serve as the Sports and Exhibition Authority Treasurer. I'm the only candidate in this race who actually serves as a treasurer, overseeing tens of millions of dollars for the county. So thank you. I'm sorry if I went on.
Thank you both. Most of us know there's been a long-standing treasurer in our county for several decades. And so this is an opportunity for change. So what kind of changes would you make to the Treasurer's Office if elected? And we'll start with Anthony.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Well, first and foremost, I want to keep some of the good things that John Weinstein has done. I know most of his staff. He has really competent, good workers. They know their job. And I want to sit down individually with each group, okay? My plan is to get everybody who works on licensing, everybody who works on investing, everybody who works on sending out our tax bills, meet with them, 5, 6, however many there is. I'm uniquely qualified because I've run a business for 30 years. I'm still in business myself. But for starters, I want to keep the things that he's done well. Obviously, his activism with the dogs and animals has been fantastic. I hope to keep that what it is. But I will bring my own style of government. There are many things I do in city council that I hope to incorporate through county treasurer. Initiatives like food insecurity, like the homeless in downtown Pittsburgh. So I'll bring my own style of government. It's impossible for me to say exactly everything I would change or do to improve that office until I actually get in there and find out myself. But I'll spend this first month in office talking, getting to know the employees, knowing what they do and what they feel they can do to make their job in the treasurer's office better. So that's it. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. My platform is one of transparency, modernization, and collaboration. And there are things we can see around the county treasurer's office and things I've learned campaigning since December that they do well, and things that we can see that can be done better. If anyone goes to the website, they can see that not all the information we want is there, that payments aren't as easy as they could be. As I've been saying since December, you can't buy that lifetime dog license from your couch. You have to walk into the office to do it. All of those things should be easier for both residents and taxpayers, as well as the businesses that are interfacing with the government. I'd also like to see more transparency. How are our county funds that are not in the retirement plan invested? I do not know. There is an investment policy, but that information is not regularly released. There's very little through line to what's happening on the pension board, and we can bring more attention to the activity of the pension board. I'd like to do that. And as was mentioned, there is a lot of expertise in the office, right? So talking with the workers to determine how we can improve both the internal runnings of the office as well as the client-facing, taxpayer-facing elements. So and then on the collaboration front, working with the other departments of government. That might be, as was mentioned, there's licensing features, right? Maybe it's incorporating where the county and city dog parks are on the dog licensing page, where one can go hunting and fishing on the licensing page. So just bringing more information together in a more cohesive fashion for the people of our county.
You actually mentioned the pension plan. There's some reports that it is underfunded. Do you think this is true? And if so, what will you do to help shore up the money of retirees? And Eric.
Our pension plan right now has about $1 billion in assets and close to $2 billion in promises to county retirees. As an actuary, I know there are a lot of different measures of a pension plan. So if you ask any actuary, they're going to give you well, it's this, and maybe it's kind of also this. But the fact is, when you look at the reporting from the actuary that the county has hired, we see that the deficit grows year over year in projections. We're not even putting enough money in it to keep up with kind of the interest on what we owe. It's like having a mortgage and not even paying your interest each year. That's the situation we have currently created for ourselves. So yes, to answer your question, I do believe it is underfunded, and I believe the first step is to really look at the plan and take some honest measures of what the total long-term funding of that plan is, so that we can properly have a discussion around how we are going to fund those promises, so that we won't have any surprises for taxpayers or retirees in the future.
Excellent. Anthony, same question.
Thank you. I think this is one area where Erica and I tend to disagree more than agree. I know that Allegheny County Pension Fund for our workers is one of the most robust in the Commonwealth. We have over $1 billion there we invest. We, in the past, through the pandemic, from 2017 to 2021, we had a gain of $1,500,000, which is not bad, considering most pension funds lose about 14%. So that's just one board that I sit on. I'll be one of 7 members that sit on that board. It doesn't really pertain to the functions of that office. But the first thing I will do is to see where that pension is funded. What percentage are we at? Are we at 30%? Are we at 40%? But I think a lot of the alarms going off about our pension fund is largely due to the market. We all know, anybody with a 401k or investments of your own know that over the past 3 or 4 years, we've all taken a hit. Pension fund's no different. Now, can we look at how do we need to not be as aggressive with our investments? Possibly. Do we need to be more aggressive with our investments? Possibly. So once I get in there and once I figure out where that rate is and how it has performed over the past 10 years, I would say, then it'll give me a forecast as to which way to go. But for right now, I'm not willing to say that we're severely underfunded. I think, again, if you compare us to other counties throughout the Commonwealth, that we're in pretty good shape. Thank you, Sean.
Yeah, of course. And so, besides collecting property taxes, which is a very important thing that you do, how can the Treasurer's Office address property tax issues? And Anthony, you're first up.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, we have a 30% discount, not discount, a 30% for all seniors who own their home if they apply and they meet for certain guidelines, that they get a 30% discount automatically. So, usually our largest investment, especially for our senior citizens, which I'm not far behind myself, but is their home. So I love that program. I look to continue that program and maybe even expand it. Maybe we can expand the universe where we can help our elderly people out who so much rely on, or in most cases are on a fixed income. And I'm sorry, could you repeat the question again?
Yeah. So outside of collecting property taxes, how can you address property tax issues in different municipalities around the county?
Right. Well, again, I'll point back to what I was just saying and trying to help relief for people who are most in need, whether it's the income level, whether it's the actual what they actually feel they can support and pay for their property tax. So yeah, I guess once I get in there and examine that, but most of all, I would point to the 30% discount or 30% sure discount for seniors is probably the best way to expand and continue down that road.
Thank you. Eric?
Thank you. The senior tax relief program that was mentioned is very important, which is why one of our state house representatives from the middle of the state, I believe it's Representative Smith Wade L, has proposed to increase it even further. So the treasurer could, and to expand the relief for renters as well, so it's at an equal income level. The treasurer as a leader can help support legislation like that and be a megaphone to let folks that know that is going on. In terms of equity, right now, I believe I would like to see, and it would have to work with county council to do it, I would like to see the regular deadline for property taxes be a little later and to have a lower penalty, something more in line with what the city has. So right now, you get a 2% discount for paying a month early, and then you have a 5% penalty if you pay even a day late. So that's a 7% difference in a month, right? If someone's struggling to pay and they get hit with this thing for paying just a little bit late, I don't think that's where we need to be. And right now we're licensing out delinquent taxes to Jordan Tax Services after the first year. And I believe there's room to look at if we want to have a policy that perhaps has more compassion for folks who are in vulnerable financial situations, working out to have payment plans as opposed to just getting like a slapped bill from Jordan Tax Services without a way to work around making it payable so that folks can stay in their homes. Thank you.
And so, you both mentioned some programs that are happening. I'm curious around, how do you make sure that folks know about those? And then also, how do you bring more transparency to the office of treasurer? And Erica, you're first up.
It's two big questions. We had 290 seconds on that, don't we? No. So the first one was, how do you make stuff more outward facing? An easy one that's not getting done at all right now is to have a high quality website, have a high quality Facebook and social medias, right? A lot of people are looking in those ranges and they can see information that way. The treasurer's office currently does not use any social media. There are ways right now the treasurer's office goes to public events like home shows and they have a booth. I think that's a great way. As a former educator, I also imagine maybe there are ways to have programs with schools or get out to other community events to get out the word around this information. To also have high quality customer service both on the phone and on the web will make people more likely to come to your office when they have a question or a follow-up question. And then tell me the second part again.
About transparency.
About transparency. I mentioned some of that already. For me, it means having more information available on the website, and then it means as we start to see more things that there should be, there will be an org chart of how the office and who the leadership of the office is if I'm elected treasurer. That does not exist currently. It's and reports on what we're up to and what we've completed and where we are in projects so that people can know what the treasurer's office is doing. That would be the bulk of what you get from me today.
Yes, thanks, Sean. First and foremost, it's marketing, okay? I know there's a lot of seniors in Allegheny County that don't realize they can get a 30% discount. We need to let them know. We need to, whether it's by mail, whether it's by internet, whether it's just by word of mouth, whether it's by people, progressively going out there through my office, letting people know that these discounts are available and letting them know that, please take advantage of them and coaching them through it if we can. In any which way. I know a lot of people, they know of some discounts, but they don't want to go through the paperwork. They don't. So I hope, bridge that gap between people who aren't actively searching for these discounts that are readily available, but people aren't taking advantage of. So I would use that office to promote. One other thing I wanted to say about the treasurer's office, transparency. Yes, we're all transparent today. You can't be a politician today and not have transparency. Everything I do in the city council office is transparent. You know every vote I make, you know every dime I get, you know everything we vote on. However, when we talk about modernizing a office, I am very much going to be focused on modernizing the treasurer's office. As Erica had mentioned, you can't get a lifetime dog license online right now. So those types of things are easy and I think could be handled very quickly. But I want to make another important point is, as much as I believe in, making that office as modern as we can and making everything available online, I do want to say this. We will still answer the phone when I'm county treasurer. I do in my city council office. Many people still use the phone and they get very frustrated. I get very frustrated when city departments don't answer the phone. And I get complaints from my constituents and they say, nobody's answering the phone. So that will be available to you as well as all the modern technology.
Excellent. And I have a very quick question. Someone mentioned this to me earlier today, so I was doing this. So they said currently you actually, when you write a check for whether it's a dog license or you actually make it out to one of your names. So one of you will be writing checks to. So is that a policy you can change and would you change it? And Anthony, you're first, actually.
Oh, that's a great question. I will say this. Since I took up running for county treasurer, it's the number one question I get asked. I will tell you. I get asked all the time, why do we write our checks to John Weinstein, right? I said, I really don't know myself, but I would imagine, it's he's the treasurer, so you write the check to him. I don't think you have to do it. I know when I write my checks to John Weinstein, I write John Weinstein, county treasurer. So, but it is the number one question that I have been getting asked. Will I discontinue it? Maybe, just because of all the feedback I've been getting, and people, I don't know if they think it's, something's wrong with it or it's just odd. So, yeah, I think maybe I'll change that policy to county treasurer Anthony Cobb.
Eric?
I agree it is the number one question, and I didn't realize until probably a year ago that they will cash that check written to Allegheny County Treasurer just as good as cash. So you do not have to wait to elect a new person. As good as I'm sure it is for name recognition and re-election, I do think it should be Allegheny County Treasurer, though I do want to see how many ways my name gets misspelled.
You'll see on election day how many people And so I want to thank you both for doing this. We are running a little bit behind, so give us each like a 30-second close. And so we start with Erica, so we'll end with Anthony. So Anthony, you're first.
Oh, okay, thank you, Sean. Okay, so I'm asking for your vote for county treasurer because of my leadership experience and my life's work. Okay, I started my own business at 28 years old. I've never been in debt. We've never taken on any debt. To this day, I have no debt. I run my life like that. The city council office is also a business. Same way, I'm very responsive to the voters. Sports and Exhibition Authority as well. My role and my responsibility there just warrants the fact that I feel I'm the best qualified and the person to step in and run this business. This is not a political office, this is a business of 60 plus people that need somebody with my experience to come and run it. So thank you again. Thank you, Progress PA. Thank you, Sean. Really wonderful crowd and wonderful time. I appreciate it.
As we've been discussing tonight, I have the skills and expertise to really understand what is happening in this office. I've researched it. I have a plan and a vision for what we should be doing in this office. I have the uniquely qualified to execute on that plan. And I am here and ready to serve for you. So I ask for your vote on May 16th. I hear ballots are going to start coming to your mailboxes if you ordered one at the end of this week. And it's not too late to order one. It's not too late to encourage a loved one to change from a different party to be a Democrat. And I will be around afterwards. I'm happy to answer any of your questions. I really appreciate your all's hospitality tonight. Thank you.
Thank you both, your candidates for treasurer. And we've got another door prize coming up. Another door prize coming up, so get your tickets out.
Okay, now that I have the tickets, there are two prizes here. One is a $25 Amazon gift card. $299-263. This gift basket is donated from Levana Bratik. It is a lounge top, lounge bottom, and a gift certificate for $50, total value $250. And donated from Levana Bratik in Wexford. There's the owner right there. And the winning number is 299-262. 262. Yep. Should I draw it off? Okay, here we go. 299-246.
I think it's
246.
I'm thinking maybe outside. Maybe
246.
I think it's my husband.
It's not me.
You have to redraw. Yeah, I have to
Okay,
redraw.
one more try. 299-208.
Yes.
This is for everybody else. All the
All right, we're going to move on to our final rumble here. County Council at Large. So Allegheny County Council is the legislative branch of county government. These are the people who have to work with the county executive that you've all been getting a ton of mail from. The council is made up of 15 elected officials, 13 are in districts, and 2 are at large. The powers and duties of the council include approving and amending legislation submitted by the county executive or another council member, adopting a county budget, approving the use of permits for county land, levying taxes and fees on all of us, and confirming or rejecting appointments for county agencies and authorities. We have 2 candidates here with us, Bethany Hollom and Joanna Delvin. Come on down. Oh, thank you. Yeah, they switch. Okay. All right. So, I'd love for both of you to tell us a little bit about yourself, why you're running for this office, and then we'll get into some questions. We'll be starting off with Bethany.
Awesome. Hello, everybody. My name is Bethany Hallam, and I am your current Allegheny County Council member at large. I am going into my 3rd year of law school at Duquesne University, and I am the Director of Operations at a nonprofit small business incubator in Wilkinsburg. When I first ran in 2019, everybody laughed and said, why would you want this job anyways? County council doesn't do anything. And at the time, they were right. We had a 15-member body where only a few of them were even trying to pass legislation. But in this past 4 years, we proved everybody wrong. We showed them how important it is to have elected leaders at all levels of government, including the county, who are willing to stand up for you every single day, to go to bat for you, even when it may not be politically favorable to themselves. We showed what county government can do when you have the right people there. And that's why people are talking about the jail. That's why people know now that they have a right to clean air and clean water. That's why people know that these races are important. And I hope for 4 more years to keep on doing that for all of you.
Thank you. And Joanna.
Thanks for having me, Sean, and all the folks here at Progress PA. My name is Joanna Dovin. I'm a small business owner, a single mom of 3 young kids. I'm running because I feel as if post-COVID, our county is facing historic challenges. And I believe that we need leaders who have experience in both the public and private sector in getting things done and progressing things forward. And I also believe that civility is at stake. I do not think that you make the most progress by fighting and by being divisive constantly. I'm running because I want my kids to make sure that they have a better future in our region. I see that we're losing jobs. We're losing construction projects because of exorbitant permitting fees. And those are topics that county council should be talking about, but I'm not hearing that much. Thank you.
Thank you both. All right, so we're going to get into some questions. If anything gets contentious and you need a rebuttal, let me know, but hopefully they don't get there. But first we're going to talk about public transportation. Routes have been cut in a lot of places around the county, but costs really haven't. Employers seem to be looking for workers, but many of those potential people couldn't actually get to the jobs relying on transportation as it is currently. So what would you do to make public transportation more accessible? Joanna, you're first.
So we have to talk about the root of what's happening in our society right now. The fact is there's 33,000 available jobs in our county that cannot get filled. We have a mental health crisis. 12.5% of the workforce left during COVID. So when you talk about PRT, and I'm endorsed by the Jeff DePerna of the union there, we need an HR program and plan to recruit people. It's a multidimensional problem, right? We're cutting routes because there's less people going to downtown, right? There's less funding going into the system. So we have to rethink public transportation in general. But again, HR. We don't have enough bus drivers. That's a problem. So we have to talk about that. How can we go into more minority communities, right? And help to recruit more, diverse people to work. There's there's things that we can do working with Partner for Work, for example, which is a workforce investment board that's funded by the county to help recruit and retain more workers. So the problem's multidimensional. It's going to take a collaborative approach working with a lot of different partners. Thank you.
Thank you, Bethany.
Yeah, so it's actually one of the reasons I ran for county council in the first place. I lost my driver's license for 10 years. I grew up in Ross Township, not that far outside the city, yet it was impossible to get around without a car. It was impossible to get to doctor's appointments, impossible to get to work, impossible to get the places that I needed to go. And when I go around and I talk to people in the county, they're all concerned about that. What we need is an investment in our public transportation system. Instead of spending tons of money on a rebrand to Pittsburgh Regional Transit, what we need to spend money on is making sure that, yes, we have more routes, but also that the routes that we do have are reliable. If you're standing at a bus stop and it doesn't show up when it's supposed to be, you're going to be late for work, you're going to miss your job. You're going to miss the doctor's appointment that your kid really depended on. You're going to see that so many options that are available to people that have access to reliable transportation are suddenly taken away from you. So absolutely, we have a crisis all throughout the county when it comes to staffing, but the question's about public transportation and how we're going to improve it. And that's what it's really about, is to make sure that people can get where they need to go, to make sure that we're centering people. I don't know how many people, their number one issue with public transportation was changing the name, rebranding the authority. What we need to do is listen to people and make sure that the public is centered in every conversation they have, and what they really want to do is be able to rely on their bus. What they really want to do is not have to revolve where they're moving around where is the only place that they can get a bus or the T on time. Making sure that all of those services are available to everyone, and that's what I'm going to do.
Hills, 2 buses a day. No.
Penn Hills was very big. So 2 buses a day is kind of insane. All right, so, I was very excited when my partner decided to move to Pittsburgh. But one of the things that he was most worried about was our air quality. And is still worried about it. And that's a concern of a lot of folks. And so, what would you do to improve the quality of air and water here in Allegheny County? And Bethany, you're first.
Yeah, so the coolest part about running as an incumbent is I can also tell you what we have done already. And so one of the things we've done, which was a huge priority I know for my colleague Councilmember Priscio, was we banned fracking in the county parks. And everybody told us we couldn't do it. We did it. We even overrode the county executive's veto when he tried to tell us that he didn't support that. We banded together and we built a really broad coalition to show that we're going to put people first, right? The other thing is we really need to talk about our water as well. It's not just about our air, but also about the water we drink. That's why in the past budget, we allocated additional funding for lead remediation in your home. So you don't need to worry that the water coming into your house through your spigot is unsafe for your family to drink. And in my next term, I hope that we'll take it a step further. We know that Article 1, Section 27 of the Pennsylvania Constitution guarantees Pennsylvanians a right to clean air and pure water. And we need to stand up as a council and stand up, and hopefully with a cooperative new county executive who says we are going to ban fracking countywide. That is non-negotiable. We have seen our communities suffer too much. Additionally, we have a clean air fund. The clean air fund is mainly funded by the polluters who are getting fined for polluting our air. We need to make sure that those funds are actually going to the communities that have been harmed, not going for things that are completely unrelated to air quality, but actually holding big polluters accountable. A $20,000 fine to a $1 billion corporation doesn't matter to them. It is more economical for them to just keep on polluting. We need to up those fines and work with the Board of Health and appoint the proper people to the Board of Health who will hold those big polluters accountable, and then make sure that fund is used what it was intended to be used for, and that's protecting the people of Allegheny County.
So I'd like to talk about facts for a few minutes here. So the EPA, not the county, sets the fines, okay? And those fines have been maxed for the past 3 years. And also, the money that goes into the fund council gets to see where it goes. So if it's not going to the proper areas, then council has had the opportunity to call that out and change it. When it comes to air quality, I grew up 5 miles from Clairton. My mom was diagnosed with a very rare form of lung cancer that we know is linked to air quality. I'm very passionate about our air. We have to make sure that the Department of Health has public health experts on its board overseeing and governing every single mandate. Bottom line, we have to make sure we're maxing out all of the fines and enforcing them fully. That has been happening. But also, we need to come to reality with the fact that where our economy is going here, where we're growing jobs, is in eds, meds, and tech, not within U.S. Steel, okay? And I can tell you that there are people who we cannot recruit, retain, and attract to Pittsburgh because of our air quality. We're losing jobs because of it. Thank you.
All right. Moving on to our next question. The Schumann Juvenile Detention Center was shuttered. And right now there's no place to send minors in our county. Some candidates for county executive have talked about this. They proposed reopening it or potentially privatizing it. So Joanna, you're first here. Tell me about your thoughts on juvenile detention, but then also support reopening this or privatizing it. What do you think?
The fact that Schumann Center was closed without any contingency plan is absolutely appalling. We were all asleep at the wheel, myself included as a private citizen. I didn't understand the impact. And so was county council, and so was our county executive. We have to have a nurturing, welcoming, and also place that rehabilitates juveniles who are committing harm. Our police officers with whom I speak throw their hands in the air because I could tell you the target in East Liberty right now. I was at a meeting in East Liberty, and police officers there's lots of shoplifting happening, and adults are actually having teens do it because they know there's no consequence. We have to have boundaries too, right? I have 3 kids. If they don't have boundaries, they're not succeeding, they're not excelling. So we have to reopen Schumann. It must be a priority. I think that we should be doing it now and not waiting for the next county executive, actually. Thank you.
Thank you, great question. So we recently in County Council actually just created a working group to address exactly this issue. We made sure that when we legislated that plan, it included stakeholders from all of the different affected folks, including formerly incarcerated juveniles, including community members, including first responders who deal with this on a daily basis. The reality is, Schumann didn't need to close in the first place. County Council was not even made aware that it was happening. What happened was the state had the county on provisional licenses, which they were applying for over and over and over again, and then the county gave up. Schumann never needed to close, but it did. So what we have taken a stand on is we have said that under no circumstances are we going to accept privatizing Schumann. The reality is the request for proposal that was put out for Schumann Center was for a private entity to come in and profit off of our kids. No. That is an absolute deal breaker. But what we also know is some facts about Schumann. There were very few kids in Schumann at the time that it was closed. The average stay was just a few days for every child in Schumann. What we really need to do is have a place absolutely that kids who are posing a threat can go to, but that we're focusing on rehabilitation. Kids have nowhere to go right now, and you wonder why they're getting into trouble. It's because we're investing in talking about punishing them all the time instead of asking what it is that we could do to make sure we keep them out of those situations in the first place. Kids can't even go to the mall anymore without an adult. The waterfront's closed down for a curfew. All of the things that we did when we were kids are no longer an option for the kids today. So we need to talk about pushing the focus from punishment and incarceration in all of our conversations and talking about actual public safety, investing in families and children first.
Thank you. We just saw Fox News settled with Dominion voting systems, for hundreds of millions of dollars. There's still a lot of debate around our election systems and the security, and there's a lot of folks who truly don't feel faith in that system. So, as a council person, how would you protect our election process? And Bethany, you're first.
Right, so the County Council at Large member has a unique role as one of the 3 members on the Board of Elections. So when I was sworn in 2020, not only did we get hit with COVID, and everybody was trying to figure out how to do that, but remember, we also had to implement mail-in voting and brand new voting machines for the first time ever. So we knew it was our time to step up. And I organized a bunch of elected officials, and we made some really creative campaigns around no naked ballots. As soon as that ruling was handed down, and we knew that people's votes were not being counted because they were not fitting to the technicality of the new mail-in voting laws, we stepped up And we were able to actually have an impact to make sure that everybody's vote was counted. We also did a lot of work just to make the whole process a little more transparent and easier to understand. On my website, over Zoom, we had regular information center sessions where people could just show up and ask whatever questions it was that they had, whether it was about voting in person, where their polling place was, mail-in voting, or even how to just understand what Act 77, our new way of voting, did. Also, with mail-in voting, there's a lot of waiting game there. You're waiting for your ballot to come. You're waiting to make sure that your ballot gets returned properly. I promise you that the number one thing that I do in the months leading up to election is help people track down their votes and make sure that it's counted. I know the law around election law. I've studied Act 77 back and forth. I know what we can do on the Board of Elections, and I know how we can make sure it works for all of you. So despite any negative attack ads that you may hear about our election process and our certification process, know that I understand how to follow the law and make sure that every voter is enfranchised, not disenfranchised, and use my platform to make sure that people know how to have their vote counted for whoever it is that they choose to vote for.
Thank you. Well, Bethany, you gave a path to the MAGA crowd for 2024. When you voted not to certify 9 precincts, it stopped the election from being certified. So I don't understand, how it doesn't quite make sense to me. You were the only local Democrat in any locally contested race, right, by the MAGA crowd across all the United States to vote to not to certify. What I will say is this. That's an incredibly important seat, the at-large seat, because it serves as one of 3 on the Board of Electors, and I will vote to certify the 2024 election no matter what. Thank you.
We said there'd be rebuttal. You were named. Do you want to reply?
I don't need to respond to that faith attack. Yeah, we can go on to the next question.
Okay. All right. So in 2021, the public became aware of a private Facebook group called the Pittsburgh Area Police Break Room. Many current and retired officers criticized, made racist and transphobic posts. They criticized local police chiefs and officers who showed support for Black Lives Matter. We have seen many incidents of extreme force in our county and, of course, in the media used on young people of color. Is there any kind of legislation that council can propose to help screen for officers with these extreme viewpoints, or at least make police forces be more transparent about these kind of incidents? And Joanna, you're first.
Well, as many of you know, we have 130 municipalities with separate police departments. The county does have a sheriff's office and some police entities. So we would potentially be able to do something that would, require more training. I know that there is a police review board now that the county has passed, so I think that's relevant. But at the end of the day, it is the job of any elected official to speak on behalf of those who are disenfranchised, have their backs, and make sure that people are held accountable.
Yeah, absolutely. So that countywide civilian police review board, we, county council, passed that. And it's something that I'm so proud of because it was a priority of mine when I ran in 2019, and we were able to get it done. But the problem now is we need municipalities to opt in. There are over 100 different police forces in Allegheny County, and we don't have control over all of the various municipal police forces. So if we want there to be that real form of accountability, we need to work with our local level municipal elected officials to get them to vote to opt their police force in. The reality is that the entire system that we operate under, our criminal legal system, is racist. It has we have a county jail that is 66% black men when our population is only 13% black. And why do we see those disparities? Because everybody, when they talk about public safety, wants to talk about policing, wants to talk about incarceration, wants to talk about the legal system, instead of talking about statistics and data and facts. And what the facts are, what prevents crime, what the facts are that prevents uses of force from police on individuals in our community, is making sure that they never have that interaction with the police in the first place. Investing in affordable housing, making sure that we're putting people's needs first, investing in education, investing in healthcare and mental health care, investing in our communities. If we add up all of the money that just this county is spending on the legal system between policing and incarceration and the courts, we could house people, we could educate people, we could fix the inequity in our public school system, we could make sure that people have access through the Department of Human Services for the mental health supports that they need. We can make sure that everyone, every parent, makes a living wage so that they're there and present for their family to prevent interactions with law enforcement. And that's what we can do.
All right. I got a quick one, kind of brought up by both of you, right? 130 municipalities in this county. You know, consolidation has been something that has been talked about for my whole lifetime. Bethany, we'll start with you. Is that something you support, and what could county council do to make that happen?
I think the county council should be a facilitator of conversations, right? Especially the unique at-large seat where we represent all 130 municipalities, especially with the crises that we're seeing now with fire departments being decertified, with EMS services begging for money, because what's happening is they don't have the support that they need from the county level. When municipalities are allocated funding, whether through grants or whatever the means are, county council doesn't even get a say on that right now. We need to work to change our county charter so that we actually have the authority to bring these conversations to the table, because it shouldn't be up to me, myself, to make a decision for 130 different municipalities. I told you I work in Wilkinsburg. I saw the city trying to forcefully take Wilkinsburg and annex it into the city without hearing the residents' concerns. We need to make sure that whatever happens, I'll be down for whatever the people decide that they want to do in their own communities. It should be their voices at the table, not a handful of elected officials deciding for them.
So there's two sides to this. One is what we can do legally. The way that the code is written, we have to change state law to allow any consolidation to happen, okay? And would I be an advocate for that with, our county's next county executive, our next mayor, perhaps, yes. But as Bethany said, it's really hard to tell 130 chiefs and little kingdoms basically that we want you to be a part of a whole. That's a really hard thing to do. I don't think that consolidation is practical unless state law changes. You look at Wilkinsburg right now, 25% of the business district is decimated, doesn't even exist anymore, right? They're losing population. They can't afford to take down dilapidated vacant homes that have no hope of being repaired. And they're out of funding to do that. So are we going to let Wilkinsburg decay? Is that a good thing? In that case, consolidating with the city gives Wilkinsburg more resources. Who's going to decide that? I mean, it's a very tough issue. There have been many, I'm told to stop. There's been many studies on consolidation, and it's always said that we should do it from a fiscal standpoint. But from a human standpoint, it's a harder sell. Thank you.
All right. I'm going to give you each 30 seconds to close out. We started with Bethany, so we'll close with Joanna.
My life. Okay. Thank you very much for having me tonight. It's always nice to be able to talk about the issues, even if it's only for a minute. Look, I know that many of you might not think I'm progressive enough, right? But I will tell you this. I believe that we can walk and chew gum at the same time. We can advocate for clean air and water and gender equity and fight for people who are disenfranchised, give more mental health services to our LGBTQ community, which needs it the most. And we can talk about economic development and job growth and have good conversations around how we're going to be competitive in a post-COVID world. And that's what we have to do. We have to do both. Thank you very much.
Thank you both very much. We have your candidates for... Oh,
I thought you were giving my closing statement.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bethany Holland for 30 seconds of closing.
All right, guys, so I know that I can be a little rough around the edges sometimes, right? Nobody is going to dispute that. But it's because I know we need to stand up for what's right. And it's easy to talk the talk, but what's important is have somebody who walks the walk. I have a record on county council that I am very proud of. I have stood up to really powerful people on the jail oversight board to bring transparency to one of the deadliest jails in the entire nation. I have stood up against elected leaders who were not willing to do what was in their constituents' best interest. I have stood up and yelled from the rooftops about bringing open the curtains on county government and showing people what is going on when you think no one's watching. That's what we need on county council, and I promise you, I will keep on fighting like hell for you every single day, because that is what we need.
All right, now we're done with our at-large portion. Thank you, Bethany. Thank you, Joanna. Of course. And we've got, I believe, another door prize. So Carolyn, come on up, get your tickets ready.
Our next door prize is this fabulous canvassing bag.
Come on, Carolyn, come on.
This bag is custom made. It is specifically designed for canvassers, has lots of pockets to hold candidate lit, and room for many tools that canvassers use, and we have included those tools. Post-it notes. You cannot do democracy without post-it notes. You leave them at the door when there's no answer. A hole punch and rubber bands to attach lit to doorknobs. Pens, a clipboard, and a rain poncho, and more. The value of this item is priceless because it is custom made by our own Marianne Vandevelde of Progress PA and items donated by Jody Foran of Progress PA. And if you win it, you have to go door knocking. And the winner is 299275. Who's going to go door knocking for the candidates? 275, anyone? Yes? Awesome. This is designed by our own Allison Duncan. It is a magnet. You can put it on your car or elsewhere. Defend democracy. Who could argue with that? So we will draw that, and then I'll have a few words, and then we have one final door prize. All right, 299255. All right, I just have a few more special words to say. I want to thank all the candidates who showed up and all the campaigns who sent representatives. The candidates donated to make it possible for us to have something to eat tonight. A special thanks to Sean Malloy for doing such a great job as moderator. I'd also like to thank Joe DeFazio, our sound person, to make sure that you could hear our voices. Joe's a great friend of Progress PA, and we're very grateful to know you. Thank you to Mastic Trail Brewing, right here in Shale. Julia and Ben were great to work with. I have never before today been to an event where a drink was created for our event. Happened today. And please make sure to always tip your servers generously. I need to give a special shout out to all my Progress PA teammates. I'm going to tell you their names because these people mean the world to me. They are Allison, Joni, Judy, Linda, Maddie, Marianne, Stacy, Tammy, me, and Barry. Barry's not here tonight, but he's a big part of our group. And finally, we need to have our drawing for Steeler stuff. I don't know what's in here, but it's a lot of Steeler stuff. Here we go, here. Okay, listen folks, the primary is May 16th. It is very important. Some of these offices will be won in this primary. Tell all your neighbors to vote, and you vote too. The number is 299-252.
252.
252. One more try. All right. Thank you, everyone, for making this a very productive evening.